The Nifty and the Sensex posed their biggest weekly losses in a month, ending over 2% lower. The Nifty Bank erased half of last week's gains, but the mid-cap index outperformed mildly. That basically was taking stock of the week which has gone by. You're with us here on a new edition of Taking Stock, where we look back, but more importantly, look ahead to try and prepare you for the week which is in front of us. And it's going to be a big one with the big risk, event risk, which is the US election results. I'm Prashant Nair. With me, my colleague Surabhi Upadhyay. Hi, Surabhi.
Hi, Prashant. Good evening to you. Aren't we glad this happens only once in 4 years? I mean, technically, hopefully always just once in 4 years. Well, yes, there's going to be a lot coming up on the show. We will talk about the volatility and the risk aversion that's already started building up. We have lots of voices joining in as well to weigh in on the market. Rohit Singhania of DSP Investment Managers joins in. Of course, he's a stock picker. We'll find out how he's positioned on the market right now and how he is looking at this risk aversion that's building in. Rohit Srivastava reads the charts for us as always. We'll ask him what the best bets could be. And along with that, a lot of market opinion that we picked up through the week. Experts like Brian Moynihan of Bank of America, Mark Matthews of Bank Julius Baer, and Krishna Kumar Karva of MK Global, as well as Gautam Shah of Goldilocks Premium Research. But before we get to all of that, just a super quick unwind of what we saw over the last 5 trading sessions. As I said, risk aversion is the name of the game, not just here in India, but around the world. The headlines were pouring right through rising COVID cases and finally reimposition of strict lockdowns in countries like France, of course, curbs coming in many of the other European countries, including Germany as well. And that finally started percolating into stock prices. So what we've seen is that, of course, Nifty also couldn't hold up beyond a point given the extent of this. So the Nifty did lose about 11,700, but put it in context. And I'm only talking about data of the 4 trading sessions because we still have to see overnight action of the US. So even in the 4 trading sessions, some of the Western markets, the Dow, or if you're looking at the CAC and the DAX, they have lost almost 5 to 7-8%, whereas our market, the Nifty, is down just 2-2.5%. So maybe, relatively speaking, it is a bit of a resilience that we've shown over here. The silver lining is really earnings in India, and we've had far more many hits than misses, either hits or inline numbers. And I'll just recap some of the names. Axis Bank this week, Hero Moto coming out and telling us that demand continues to be fairly robust and that they're quickly moving towards recovery. Marico's numbers, Tata Motors firing away on JLR and even their domestic portfolio. Bharti Airtel's solid performance that we saw, Kotak Mahindra Bank, CEAT, these are just some examples. If you talk about misses, and there was just one big name that really stood out over the week, and that would be Maruti. But not too many local problems here. Right now, it's all about the global picture, COVID, as well as US elections, and perhaps that is going to set us up for the coming week. But more on the movers and shakers of the week. Let's hand it over to Mangalam.
Well, as far as the movers of this week are concerned, this was a week where we did see a dip across all the key segments. The Nifty Bank losing about 2.5%, the mid-cap index losing about 1.5%. As we move into an event-heavy time, we had the VIX, which was higher by almost 13.5%. There are a whole host of events, so we will keep an eye out on that. The gainers on the Nifty, far and few in between, primarily on account of results. So the biggest of them all was Kotak Mahindra Bank, up 12%. Nestle too returned to double-digit growth trajectory this quarter, and we saw that stock higher by about 8% as well. Similar was the case for companies like Shree Cement and Asian Paints. Among the losers, there were a fair amount of them. Hero MotoCorp down 10%. We had big boys like HDFC, Bajaj Auto down 6 to 7%. We had ICICI Bank as well in the week ahead of numbers, down 6-odd%. In the mid-cap end of things, some of the stocks continue to run. We had Just Dial, after a near 50% move in the previous week, moved around 12% this week as well. Chola Investment, good gains coming in for that one. And then among the losers, we had Federal Bank down 10%, PVR, a lot of them lower. In fact, the likes of Vedanta as well. Street not too happy with the kind of dividend that was announced. And finally, we had some big movers in the broader market. So 47% gain coming in for something like an Angel Broking, Route Mobile gaining 24%, CG Power 21%. And in terms of mysterious gains, we have a stock which had mysterious losses as well. GE Power down 47% as they decided to hive off their steam business, which accounted for nearly 80% of their overall business. So that was the sum and substance of it all, the movers this week.
Mangalam, thanks very much for that. I'll just take about 40-45 seconds to wrap out how things are positioned now as we look ahead into the week. So far, we've seen going into elections, US election results, risk reduction, a dash for cash, if you want to call it that, across the globe. whether it is warranted or not, it is happening. And it may continue as we sort of head into the polls and we start to get results. Markets may finally start to make meaningful moves Wednesday onwards because that's when it will become clearer, who's basically going to occupy the White House. The big question is it really going to be, as one-sided as the polls are suggesting? Is it going to be a blue sweep? Because if that is the case, then, market sort of positioning and the opinion out there is suggesting that we may actually start to see big moves on the upside post the result outcomes. In any case, starting Tuesday night or Wednesday early morning, the market basically will try to look for signposts, clues, whether it is exactly one-sided or it's going to be a closely contested election result. So, that's really going to be the big thing. So, Monday, Tuesday, but the big moves really start from Wednesday onwards when we get the results. Market technicals, especially on the US side, are pointing to downside, but I would say look through these because there is the election result and it could be just risk reduction ahead of that. So I think, even if you want to go by what price action is telling you, I would say you got to wait till about Wednesday or so. In India, third quarter results, as Surabhi also pointed out, broadly have been a lot better than what expectations were. The question, of course, which no one has the answer to is this sustainable? And unlike the West, here in India, the COVID situation seems to be, at least for now, coming under control. And, there is no talk of, it's reopening here as opposed to restrictions and lockdowns which we're seeing in the Western world. So it's a constructive backdrop, I would say, as we look ahead into the next week as well. But let's welcome in our guest on the show today. We have Rohit Singhania joining in. He's co-head of equities at DSP Investment Managers. He manages 4 funds at DSP Investment he's been with the firm for a long time. His first time on the show here on Taking Stock. Rohit, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining in on the show. Let's just get your thoughts on the market from here, Rohit. You are of the view that growth at any price is not an acceptable argument that you would want to make. Do you find valuations excessive here? Earnings really maxed out in that sense? Sentiment also? Or do you think there is still room for upside?
So Prashant, when we talk about valuations, it's not across the market and across sectors. So what's happened is with this pandemic over the last 6-7 months, as investors, we tend to move towards safety and security. So we tend to move towards high quality companies with better balance sheet, right? And over there, valuations then tend to expand because more liquidity chasing less number of stocks. But as we see now, at least the local data, as you pointed out, right, the COVID cases, the recovery has been far, far better. Gradually, we are expecting, opening up of things happening. The high frequency data like, the power consumption, diesel, petrol consumption, e-waste bill generation, they're all showing sequentially improvement, right? So here is a case whereby, probably if you take away from the world, we are seeing better data points. And where I see sector divergences in valuations, that quality names the so-called tier 1 of quality, and I look at the valuations and the expectations of earnings, it doesn't give me any margin of safety in terms of, what may happen next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line. On the other side, there are few sectors, yes, they may not be the tier 1 of quality, they may be tier 2 or tier 3. But that doesn't mean they're bad quality. They have certain things turning around for them. And there's a big valuation gap among sectors and companies among sectors. So with gradual opening up expectation, at least in India, data points sounding positive, I think you need to pay some more attention towards valuation also and look down maybe at tier 2, tier 3 of quality, not necessarily tier 1, and not even go down to the last basket of quality.
Okay. Rohit, great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining in. Prashant was telling us, I think, we were discussing this earlier, and he was telling me that you want to buy growth, but at a value. And I thought that was a brilliant statement. Now, explain to us how and where to find those stocks, right? Because typically that's the whole problem. Let's take consumers, for instance, and consumer stocks have largely delivered decent numbers, whether we look at a Nestle or we look at an Asian Paints, but it's anything but value, right?
Right. So when you look at it, as I said, there are few sectors who have shown growth, and you mentioned consumer, right? If you go look back last 3-4 years in terms of kind of revenue growth and profit growth they have had, and on the other side, you look at the share price growth which they have had. So it's saying there has been more valuation increase or premium valuations going up rather than the earnings driving stock prices. On the other side, you have stocks which are reporting decent earnings growth, maybe higher than the consumer sector you mentioned. But because of the fear of COVID, maybe because these businesses have some debt on their books, or they are not fancy, so-called fancy businesses, right? And you look at their valuations. So it's just been divergences among sectors. When I say growth at a value, is India is a growth country, right? You want to buy stocks for showing you sustainable earnings growth, management quality, etc. But how much are you willing to pay for it? For me, that becomes a key. So usually I've avoided stocks with 1.5 standard deviation higher over the last 5 years mean, to just have that margin of safety in mind. That's what I mean by growth at a value.
Your overweight financials, Rohit, just explain that. And again, there also, I mean, there the problem is not so much valuations now, is it? Maybe except the top two names.
So financial is just before I go back into India specific, right? What's happened in the last 6-7 months is because of uncertainty, the global correlation has gone up for Indian sectors and stocks also. So if you look at the last 3-4 months, financials in India has been one of the worst performing sectors. Similar is the case with the US and European markets also. But what's happening in India now, few of the banks have reported numbers, few of the NBFCs have reported numbers. The commentary has been one. What we were expecting in terms of restructuring, in terms of collections, the data has seen marked improvements. Managements have come out and openly mentioned in their con calls the kind of data they are seeing, the improvement they're expecting. But because of, I think, near term, because of the global correlation, global financials not doing well, we are facing the brunt. But when I look at the valuations on the other side, and with maybe a Nifty or a broader market, they're at about 2 standard deviation lower. Fundamentals improving, valuations on your side. I think I would be, positive on the financials as a space going forward.
Okay. That's on the financial space. The other question really here is that, the leaders of this rally that began in March, they have been Rohit, IT and pharma, and we know that. Now, do you see the strength in these sectors to carry this on for several more quarters? Are you as positive on both? If not, I mean, which do you like better between the two?
So right now, if you look at my positioning of my funds, I prefer pharma over IT. And again, both have a bottoms-up approach. See, traditionally, these sectors, as I said, they are so-called defensive sectors. So in uncertain environments, things tend to go, little above than fundamentals in terms of stock prices. But as we see for pharma, for example, even pre-COVID in last year, fiscal 20, the domestic market was showing signs of recovery. What's happened in the last 9-12 months is, we have seen the resilience of the pharma business models in terms of their cost, in terms of generic manufacturing. Recently, we've seen a lot of companies get approvals also. So there is a lot of tailwinds going on, and it's specific to few companies, right? So when you talk about the sector, you need to really, identify few stocks, what's going right for them. So Indian market growth is there. US market growth is coming back. Pricing is stable. We are a great generic supplier to the world. So all these things are working well. And once you get the approvals and once you have the market, it's difficult for you to lose it, right? Unless you mess up in terms of your production, manufacturing facility or processes. So that's what's giving me more confidence on pharma over IT. IT on the other side also, it's the business where the balance sheet is clean. You have strong cash flows. So, you want to be in it. But as I see going forward and with recent cases in Europe and US, again, IT for Indian companies between 25 to 30% of the revenues come from discretionary spends. So what if there is a slowdown in discretionary spends happening? So yes, in terms of deal wins have been great in the last 2 quarters, but just going forward, the signs which I'm seeing at least doesn't make me comfortable to be overweight in IT. But yes, citing the balance sheet, strong cash flows, it's a significant weight in the portfolios too.
Rohit, it's great chatting with you. Thank you very much for that perspective. Appreciate your time here on this edition of Taking Stock. That's Rohit Singhania at DSP Investment with his thoughts on the market right now. So he's basically looking for the number 2 players across sectors because he thinks the number one player, or what is perception-wise the highest quality, is too expensive, is kind of maxed out on valuation sentiment, etc. So that's a broad top-down way of thinking coming in from Rohit Singhania. We take a quick break here. Coming up on the other side is an eye on technicals. How should you position yourself? And we leave you with some market opinion that we got over the last 5 days.
We have been very bullish on India as a company, both just in terms of operations and our team led by Kaku and the country, and the groups we have to support our worldwide businesses. So we're bullish on it. But if you look at it more from our economic and our analyst side, they believe the government's measures are right. I think as a service provider, as a potential manufacturing venue, and the ability to drive those, our team is very bullish on India, and that's why they have it going back to 9% growth level next year off of the downdraft.
The Indian market has been surprisingly robust, considering that it is among the countries worst hit by the coronavirus. And on the positive side, what we can see is that the daily cases have been coming down quite sharply for several weeks now, and states like Maharashtra continue to open up. So I believe that we'll move from a stabilization in economic data to actual, significant sequential improvement.
My sense is that this is just the beginning. Possibly going forward, you will see more upticks in corporate performances in the Q3, Q4. And I think we are set for a decent run going forward. And to a question that should you be investing, I think instead of looking at the Nifty itself, investors should be more bottoms up, because the easy money from 8,000, 9,000 to 12,000 has been made. But there is still decent money to be made in various sectors and stocks on a bottoms-up basis. In fact, if you go sector by sector, you don't find too many headwinds in most of the sectors.
Welcome back. You're with us here on Taking Stock. You got the fundamental view from DSP Merrill Lynch. Let's get the technical view now. Rohit Srivastava, founder and strategist at India Charts, is now joining in with his thoughts. Rohit, thanks very much. You're saying the Nifty has completed a 38% retracement of the rise which started from 10,790. Is this it? Or do you think there is more on the downside?
So I think that's the question on everyone's mind, and I'll break it into two parts. The first is that if I simply look at the market reaction and the structure of the charts and what we've seen in terms of a correction around the world, then it might look like this is it, because at the start of, say, probably 2 weeks ago, before we got a lot of this COVID news that people are fretting right now, all we were looking for is a 38% retracement, a pullback maybe to the lower Bollinger Band on the daily chart of Nifty, and both of that happened today. So I would sense that this is an important level from where you can resume the upward trend. Another interesting feature about this time period has been the strength that we've seen in the broad market, and not only the broad market, I think even in banking. So Bank Nifty itself has not corrected as much as Nifty. It's still above the 20-day average, whereas the Nifty's gone all the way back to the 40-day average. So that also makes a lot of difference, that Bank Nifty is still holding on to the 23,800 20-day average support, whereas Nifty's gone a little deeper than that. The mid-cap index, of course, is held up even above its averages. So the strength that we are seeing in market internals often tells you that the correction is just a pullback in what is a larger upward trend. And so the first view I would take is that this is probably it, and I'll start looking for an upward bounce from here. The only thing we'll watch out for, I think, in the coming weeks is the risk of a second wave in India, which a lot of people are saying maybe not the case as everywhere else. And there are a couple of countries where we are not seeing that. I think that's the only reason why you can get a deeper correction. But if that doesn't end up being true, then I would think that ahead of all the events that we have last week, we are probably at the low end of the range for the Nifty.
Okay, that's on the index. So in this context, and given that it's a big event week, Rohit, what are the individual stock trades that you would advise on?
So the strength that we have seen in two particular areas. One is, of course, banking, which, like I said, has held the 20-day average. So if it's shown that strength, then probably banking is a space where we look for the potential restart of the move up. And the second one is the metals. Now, metals have weakened quite a bit. 1 week we saw correction, and we are still seeing strength in the dollar. But sometimes stocks tend to deviate from what is happening in the underlying commodity prices. And if the big picture is still there, what we ended up seeing is that the metal index did not break the 20-week average this week. And after a pullback through this week, I think we saw a positive day today. So they're actually holding strong. So my sense is unless we break today's low on the metal index, that we might actually resume a metals rally into next week. So I think that would be one particular sector to look at. The other one which I've been focusing on has been sugar stocks. They've also been outperforming the market, and we're actually seeing sugar prices close to the 52-week highs. And I think sugar stocks should also, be due for a move higher.
Okay. All right, Rohit, thank you very much for joining in with those insights. And with that, we are out of time on this edition of Taking Stock. Many thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. It's a wrap from Prashant, me, and the whole team. We'll see you again on Monday morning.
Presented by